Right now, you may be looking back at everything that happened this month, the challenges, the disappointments, the delays, the unexpected struggles, the moments that tested your faith, and if you're honest, there were days when you felt exhausted, days when you wondered if things would ever improve, days when you felt like giving up, but listen carefully, Jesus is saying, my child. This month will end better than it started. Not because every problem will disappear overnight, not because life will suddenly become perfect, but because I have been working in ways you cannot yet fully see, Jesus says, my child. I am doing more behind the scenes than you realize. While you were worrying, I was preparing, while you were waiting, I was arranging, while you were questioning, I was working, because even when you cannot see movement, that does not mean nothing is happening, Jesus is saying, my child. Silence is not the same as absence. There were moments this month when you felt overlooked, misunderstood, emotionally drained, and perhaps even discouraged, but every challenge carried a lesson, every delay carried a purpose, every closed door carried protection, even when you could not understand it at the time. Jesus says, my child. I have been strengthening you through every season. Look at how far you have already come. You survived things that once seemed impossible, you carried burdens that felt too heavy, you faced fears that tried to stop you, and yet, you are still here, still standing, still moving forward, still believing. Jesus is saying, my child. Your survival is proof of my faithfulness. Now, as this month comes to a close, do not focus only on what did not happen, do not focus only on what was delayed, do not focus only on what you lost. Instead, notice how much you have grown, notice how much you have learned, notice how much stronger you have become, because growth is also a blessing, healing is also a blessing, wisdom is also a blessing. Jesus says, my child. Some of the greatest gifts I give are not visible immediately. And soon, you will begin seeing the results of what God has been doing, new opportunities, new peace, new clarity, new strength, and new doors that could not have opened before, because the season is shifting, the chapter is changing. And what lies ahead is not the same as what lies behind. Jesus is saying, my child. Do not judge your future by your current circumstances. The story is still being written, the breakthrough is still developing, the answer is still on the way, and the blessing is still unfolding. So finish this month with faith, finish it with gratitude, finish it with hope, because God is not finished yet. Jesus says, my child. Trust me. This month will end better than it started. If you believe God is working things together for good, type Amen and step into the days ahead with faith and confidence. Now, you may not see the whole picture yet, you may still be waiting for answers, still hoping for change, still wondering when things will finally shift, but listen carefully, Jesus is saying, my child. Sometimes the biggest changes begin when you least expect them. Because God often works quietly before he works visibly, he prepares before he reveals, he arranges before he announces, and he builds before he blesses openly. Jesus says, my child. Do not mistake a quiet season for an empty season. One sign God is about to surprise you is this: you begin feeling a new sense of peace, not because every problem is solved, but because your spirit feels lighter. The fear that once controlled your thoughts begins losing its power. The anxiety that once consumed your energy begins fading, and a quiet confidence starts growing within you. Jesus is saying, my child. Peace often arrives before the breakthrough. Another sign, you begin noticing small changes, unexpected conversations, unexpected opportunities, unexpected ideas, things that seem minor at first, but later become important pieces of a larger blessing, because God often starts with small steps, before he reveals the bigger picture. Jesus says, my child. Pay attention to the doors opening quietly. Another sign, you feel less attached to what you were once desperate for, you stop forcing outcomes, stop chasing answers, stop trying to control every detail. And instead, you begin trusting more, surrendering more, believing more, because your faith is becoming stronger than your fear. Jesus is saying, "My child." When you release control, you make room for my direction. At this stage, you may also notice that certain delays begin making sense, certain disappointments begin revealing hidden protection, certain closed doors begin looking like blessings in disguise, because hindsight often reveals what confusion could not. Jesus says, "My child." What once felt like a setback may soon reveal itself as a setup. And perhaps the greatest sign of all, you begin feeling hope again, not because of what you see, but because of what you sense, a quiet expectation, a gentle belief, a feeling that something is changing, because God often places hope in your spirit before He places the blessing in your hands. Jesus is saying, "My child, I prepare your heart before I reveal the answer." Soon, you may receive clarity where there was confusion, direction where there was uncertainty, peace where there was stress, and opportunities where there once seemed to be none, because God is still working, still arranging, still preparing, and still faithful. Jesus says, "My child, stay expectant. The month is not over, and neither is my work in your life. So keep believing, keep praying, keep moving forward, because the blessing may arrive in a way you never expected, and the answer may come from a direction you never imagined." Jesus is saying, "My child, I am closer than you think to the breakthrough you have been praying for." If you believe God is preparing a surprise blessing in your life, type Amen and continue trusting His timing. Now, you have waited, prayed, believed, and sometimes doubted, because the journey has been longer than you expected, the answers slower than you hoped, the process harder than you imagined, yet through it all, God has been working, even when you could not see it. Jesus is saying, "My child, some of my greatest blessings arrive in ways you never expected." Because many times, you become focused on one specific answer, one specific opportunity, one specific person, one specific outcome, and while you are looking in that direction, God is preparing something even better somewhere else. Jesus says, "My child, do not limit me to the plans you have created in your mind. Because my vision is greater, my wisdom is deeper, and my timing is perfect, the blessing you didn't see coming may not look like what you prayed for originally, but it will align with what you truly need. It may be a new opportunity, a new friendship, a new season of peace, a new door opening, a new level of confidence, a new sense of purpose, because not every blessing arrives wrapped in the form you expected." Jesus is saying, "My child, sometimes the answer is different because it is better." Think about the doors that closed, the plans that failed, the people who walked away. At the time, you thought you were losing something important, but now, you are beginning to understand. Some losses were protection, some delays were preparation, and some endings were necessary for new beginnings. Jesus says, "My child, what I removed made room for what I am bringing." At this stage, you may notice that your desires are changing, your priorities are changing, your expectations are changing, because you are no longer the person you were at the beginning of the journey. You have grown, learned, healed, and matured, which means the blessing that fits your future may be different from the blessing you wanted in your past. Jesus is saying, "My child, I have been preparing both the blessing and the person who will receive it." That is why waiting was necessary, not to punish you, not to ignore you, but to prepare you, because some blessings require a stronger version of you, a wiser version of you, a more healed version of you, and now you are closer than you realize, closer to clarity, closer to peace, closer to breakthrough, closer to the blessing you never saw coming. Jesus says, "My child, trust me. What I have prepared for you will be worth the wait." So stop measuring your future by your current circumstances, stop assuming the story is finished, stop believing that delay means denial, because God is still writing chapters you have not yet read, and some of those chapters will surprise you. Jesus is saying, "My child, the blessing you didn't see coming is already on its way." If you believe God is preparing something greater than you expected, type Amen and continue trusting His plan.